Never seen a tornado before.
That looks insane.
Up that road, and I was like, it's Dodge. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So I've been watching the storm chasers on YouTube. Some of their lives are absolutely crazy. It's really interesting to watch, so I wanted to react to something about tornadoes. I haven't done it for a while, and I've really enjoyed the tornado videos before. So today we're going to be checking out the largest tornado ever recorded before El Reno. Just before we get into the video, I do want to say why I haven't posted in the last month. You might have seen it in my last video. I said I was moving. Unfortunately, the move fell through. But after I told my letting agent, who also told my landlord, they weren't too happy about me leaving. They've made it very awkward for me and basically issued me an eviction notice. Not knowing how to deal with that, I took on a storage unit, moved all my stuff into the storage unit, managed to get another company involved, which spoke to the letting agent. And when I passed the eviction date, I thought I needed to leave. So when I spoke to another company, they told me I don't have to leave. It's just a request to leave. And if I haven't found somewhere already, then I could just wait here. As long as I'm paying the rent, then that's fine. So they spoke to the landlord, they've spoke to the letting agent, they've managed to sort it all out. Because like I said, they've been very awkward with me. The second I said I want to leave, it's like they just wanted me straight out the door. So for a little bit, I had absolutely nothing here. I moved everything into storage and I wanted it confirmed before I move anything back in here. I wanted them to confirm that I'm all right here for the moment. So now we've got that sorted. I've moved the stuff back in. I don't know if I've put it in the right order. It might be a bit all over the place because it feels a bit odd. But for a little bit longer, I'm going to be here just while I'm trying to find a new place, which hopefully is as soon as possible. But that's the reason why I haven't posted. I just didn't have an area where I could actually film. But I have a whole list of things to react to now, so that should be really good. Looking forward to it. So let's press play and find out about this largest tornado.
What is the secret atmospheric mechanism behind the largest tornadoes ever recorded? How do these rare super tornadoes form? The average width of a tornado is about 275 meters or 0.17 miles. That's about 3 city blocks wide. Pretty large actually, but they can get much, much larger. The 2020 Cookeville, Tennessee EF4, one of the most significant tornadoes in the past 5 years, was double the average tornado size, approaching 500 meters or 0.31 miles wide, about 6 city blocks wide. One of last year's worst tornado events, the Greenfield, Iowa EF4, had a peak width of 1,200 meters or about 0.75 miles wide. But we're just getting started. The 2011 Hackleburg Phil Campbell EF5, one of the strongest tornadoes ever recorded, had a peak width of 2,000 meters or 1.25 miles wide. The Hackleburg Phil Campbell EF5 is literally one of the largest and most destructive tornadoes ever, an incredibly rare, massive tornado event. But what if I told you that there have been a few tornadoes that were double the size of that tornado?
Wow.
There is, of course, the 2013 El Reno EF3.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
That was an insane 4,200 meters wide or 2.6 miles wide.
2.6 miles.
And then there's the often forgotten about, but just as significant, 2004 Hallam, Nebraska F4, which had a peak width of 4,000 meters or 2.5 miles wide. That is absolutely massive. Wow. Can you imagine a tornado of this magnitude and size tearing through downtown Oklahoma City? Insane. Now, the 2013 El Reno, Oklahoma tornado may have been the largest in recorded history, but the 2004 Hallam, Nebraska F4 was essentially the same size, only 200 meters in diameter smaller. But it doesn't get hardly the same amount of attention as its slightly bigger brother, El Reno. And this is a shame because the 2004 Hallam F4 is in many ways actually more interesting than the 2013 El Reno tornado. Don't get me wrong, I think the 2013 El Reno EF3 is very intriguing. It's one of the strangest meteorological events ever recorded.
I've seen videos.
But there is a few interesting aspects about
I've seen videos of the El Reno one, and that looked absolutely insane. It was scary. Seriously scary. It was so big. So I'm definitely interested in what we're going to see here.
Hallam F4 that make it unique from El Reno. And that's the topic of today's video. What were the unique meteorological conditions that came together to create this massive monster? How did a town directly in its path, Hallam, Nebraska, fare? And why do some meteorologists claim that the Hallam F4 should actually hold the title of largest of all time instead of El Reno? That is what we'll be discussing in today's video. During the early morning of May 22nd, 2004, the central U.S. plains, especially Kansas and Nebraska, were incredibly humid. Winds from the southeast were bringing in lots of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. While there were winds coming in from the southeast, there There were also cooler, upper-level winds coming in from the southwest. A low-pressure region was gradually getting stronger in northwest Kansas. Due to its limited eastward movement, southern Nebraska and northern Kansas would remain an ideal area for supercell and tornado development. The people down at the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center saw the potential for a large tornado outbreak and began issuing warnings several days in advance. On the morning of the tornado itself, the Storm Prediction Center issued an outlook showing eastern Nebraska and western Iowa as a level 3 out of 5 moderate risk for severe weather.
Right, okay.
The tornado outlook gave a 15% chance of a tornado developing within 25 miles of any point within this shaded area, including both Nebraska and Iowa. The forecast given by the Storm Prediction Center stated this: isolated supercell storms will likely develop rapidly over eastern Nebraska and western/central Iowa by late afternoon or early evening. These storms appear to have the greatest risk for tornadoes due to very favorable low-level shear profiles and a moist boundary layer. And of course, as predicted, during the mid-afternoon, several supercells formed over Nebraska and Iowa. Several small tornadoes formed during the late afternoon in various locations. One of the first was an F1 that touched down over Furnace County, Nebraska. Another F1 tornado touched down in the late afternoon in Fremont County. This tornado traveled along the Platte River and ended up hitting a Walmart around 6 p.m. But none of these tornadoes could compare to what was to come. Around 6:45 p.m. in southeast Nebraska, a large cumulonimbus cloud that would eventually create one of the largest tornadoes of all time was rapidly forming. And I mean very rapidly. Southeast Nebraska was primed for supercell development, and a small cumulus rain shower quickly transformed into a large supercell in just 30 minutes. Oklahoma University meteorology students Gabe Garfield, Jeff Snyder, and Brent Shambaugh were heading west near Fairbury, Nebraska, straight towards the supercell, hoping to capture footage of a tornado at its base. Gabe, Jeff, and Brent were some of the few storm chasers who were able to document the entire record-breaking Hallam tornado.
Storm chasers, man.
Date is May 22nd.
You gotta be brave. You gotta be brave.
I don't know. I can't remember Fairfield or Fairview, Nebraska. Heading west on 136. Went through Beatrice, got a ticket.
Gabe, Brent, and Jeff wouldn't have to wait long. The initial phases of a tornado were beginning to form right as they arrived.
Hey, spin! How did that happen?
That happened so fast.
Holy cow!
Look at that
Wow.
rotation too.
That got its act together and fast!
You can see it coming down.
Get your camera, Brent!
It's gonna be a pretty
Right,
big
get your
tornado.
camera. That's gonna be a big tornado.
The first tornado is not the Hallam tornado itself, but a precursor. While it only briefly touched down north of Hebron, receiving an F0 rating, the motion of the mesocyclone is absolutely insane, something that the storm chasers take note of.
Look at the motion.
I know!
I'm just thinking, if you live close to that, that's got to be scary. That has got to be really scary. To look up at that and see that just near where you live would be absolutely insane.
Oh, this thing is a beast!
The supercell continued to the northeast, and the OU meteorology students continued chasing it down. Even at the very beginning of its life cycle, these storm chasers could tell this supercell was unique. And it wouldn't take long for another, more significant tornado to form. Around 7 p.m., just north of Alexandria, Nebraska, an F2 rapidly came together. This F2 traveled 8 miles, causing minor damage to several homes. Now, one common theme with many of the tornadoes from this storm is that they were surrounded by loads and loads of dust. You've heard of rain-wrapped tornadoes. Well, many of these tornadoes were dust-wrapped, making them often hard to make out. For example, the OU storm chasers did see the very end of the Alexandria, Nebraska F2, but they really couldn't tell what was going on because of all the dust.
Something on the backside of that.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, it's a huge tornado, man!
So wait, it could just be there and you don't even know it's there. And at the same time, this area is just getting hit by multiple tornadoes. It's not just one. It's not just one. You got multiple tornadoes coming down. Man, that just sounds scary. That just sounds scary.
It's a huge tornado!
Finally, around 7:30 Central Time, the initial formation of the record-breaking Hallam tornado began just west of the town of Dakin. The OU storm chasers were actually in Dakin at the time and were able to capture it on film. At first, it would appear as a beautiful white cone tornado descending from within the wall cloud.
We're about 36 miles west of Beatrice, moving northeast at 20 miles.
Very much on the ground.
Locations impacted include Dakin, Tobias,
I'll tell you when,
This is a dangerous situation. Act quickly.
Thing's gonna get big fast. Look at how low the backside of that meso.
Yep.
Otherwise, go to a small interior level.
I don't know if I would want to be this close to a
Get out of the
tornado.
road.
Watch remains ineffective to 11.
You idiots!
It was at this moment that Gabe captured something remarkable on film. So here's the tornado, right? But what is this? Is this also a part of the tornado? Not exactly. This is a rotating wall cloud, aka a spinning cloud extending from the base of the supercell itself. When the warm air beneath the supercell rises, it begins to cool, eventually reaching its dew point where it turns into condensation, and then you have a wall cloud. Really, it's a part of the supercell mesocyclone lowering from the cloud base. But just take a look at this tornado and its parent wall cloud. Like, this is crazy. Look how low and prominent this wall cloud is compared to its parent.
Honestly, when I started this channel, I knew nothing about tornadoes, and this channel has taught me so much. I've learned so much from this channel alone that it's just absolutely insane. Like, learning all the different things about tornadoes and what they look like. It's like something out of a movie for me, because we don't really have them in the UK. We do. I've heard about that. People have commented that they're very small tornadoes. I've never seen a tornado in my life. These just wow. If I saw that near where I lived, I wouldn't know what to do.
Supercell. And look how fast it's spinning. This is not a typical mesocyclonic wall cloud, and all of this may play a key role in massive tornado formation. So what are the key factors behind the development of extremely large tornadoes? Well, there is actually something known as a super tornado, also referred to as a mega wedge. This is its own class of tornadoes. It's an extremely rare breed of tornadoes that is still a bit perplexing to researchers and meteorologists to this day.
Right.
Let's go back to the 2013 El Reno tornado, the largest tornado of all time, with a width of 2.6 miles. This tornado has been described as a multi-vortex mesocyclone. It was as if the wall cloud itself reached the ground, and inside this wall cloud mesocyclonic tornado, there were dozens of vortices rotating around each other. Like, check out this video right here. This is video from within the El Reno tornado.
Wow.
And you can tell,
from the
like,
inside,
there are just random vortices all throughout. Another example may be the Birmingham 2011 EF4. Look how close this wall cloud is to actually touching the ground. These unique tornadoes have been called ground scrapers. Check out this insane example from Henry Swartz filming a tornado in 2016 in Woodburn, Indiana.
That is absolutely crazy. I didn't even know that there was that second part to a tornado.
Never seen a tornado before.
That looks insane.
Absolutely insane. Like, the wall cloud is on the ground, spinning rapidly. Like, the whole thing looks like a massive, huge tornado. Is the whole thing a tornado? Is it its own unique meteorological event? Either way, it's an incredibly rare tornado formation. Keep all this in mind as we return to the Hallam tornado supercell. It was now 7:40 and the Hallam F4 had been on the ground for over 10 minutes, often obscured by Nebraska dust. As Gabe and his fellow storm chasers followed the storm, the mesocyclone wall cloud does seem to be getting closer and closer to the ground. At this moment, Gabe and the other storm chasers pulled over to the side of the road. They're not exactly sure what they're looking at, but they're filming the entire mesocyclonic wall cloud. At one moment, a tornado appears to form on the left side of the mesocyclone.
Rotation.
There it is, coming down to the ground on the backside. Come on, let's go a little bit further north and east, man.
A few moments later, another stovepipe tornado forms on the right side of the mesocyclone.
What a tube! What a tube!
It's worth noting that at this time, the National Weather Service stated that the Hallam F4 tornado was over a mile wide. These two tornadoes are clearly not over a mile wide. So what are they? Are they satellite tornadoes? Are they perhaps two inner vortices that are soon going to be engulfed by this entire massive mega wedge? I don't know. Gabe and the other OU storm chasers headed east in an attempt to catch up with the tornado, but unfortunately it was getting increasingly further away and darker outside. Around 7:55 near the town of Western, they witnessed from a distance the tornado double in size near the towns of Wilbur and Claytonia. And around 8:10 the tornado barely clipped the town of Wilbur. Several homes and buildings were partially destroyed within the town. But thankfully, the main portion of the tornado was still over a rural area. Around this time, the Storm Prediction Center upgraded their convective outlook, now showing a level 4 out of 5 high risk for severe weather. The tornado probability map also increased to a 25% chance of a tornado forming within 25 miles over eastern Nebraska or western Iowa. In fact, in the report they stated, tornado outbreak in progress from eastern Nebraska to central Iowa. The tornado was nearly 2.2 miles wide at this point, already breaking records. As it continued to the northeast, it struck several farmsteads near the town of Claytonia. It was around this moment in the tornado's life cycle when it strengthened from an F2 to a more significant F4. When it moved into northwest Gage County, close to Claytonia, it caused the most intense damage. Numerous farmsteads in the country were devastated by the high-end F4 strength, with the wind speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour. Some estimates were even as high as 250 miles per hour. If this were measured with the modern EF scale, it would be considered an EF5. As the tornado moved into Lancaster County, it maintained its F4 intensity. The tornado would pass just north of Claytonia, but straight ahead was the town of Hallam, and Hallam was directly in its path. Making matters worse, it was getting very dark outside, and the edges of the tornado were getting more and more difficult to distinguish. Even though it was quite dark out, Gabe, Brent, and Jeff did witness the tornado as it was approaching Hallam. But unfortunately, viewing conditions were not ideal, as the tornado was now rain-wrapped.
I think there's probably something in the ground over there.
I've seen about rain-wrapped
no
ones.
way of telling. Yes. But there's still, just an insane amount of rotation everywhere.
I don't know.
Within Hallam, the sirens rang out. It was pretty late on a Saturday, so thankfully most of the residents within Hallam were at home and able to seek shelter in their basements. Hallam would unfortunately take a direct hit, being fully engulfed by the monster around 8:35 p.m. Around 200 homes were demolished and almost 95% of Hallam was severely damaged. There were 38 injuries and luckily only one fatality within the town, a 7-year-old
I thought
woman.
it'd be worse than that.
For the entire duration of the tornado, she would be the only death. Hallam's a pretty small community, so essentially the entire town was obliterated, including a train that was derailed just to the south. After the tornado had passed, many survivors walked out of their basements straight to the outdoors. Their homes were gone. Many of the survivors who were left homeless were taken by a bus to Southwest High School in Lincoln. As the massive tornado left the city of Hallam, it decreased in size significantly to almost a mile wide, so still very large. The small towns of Hickman, Firth, Panama, and Bennett were thankfully not within the path of the tornado. While it did not strike any more towns, the tornado still directly hit the rural yet pretty large Norris High School around 9 p.m. This is, by the way, this is a massive high school, like out in the middle of the country. Anyway, since the school year had ended the day before, on Friday, May 21st, the building was mostly deserted when the tornado struck. There was one instructor present, Phil Severson, an 8th grade math teacher who was finishing up his final grades. Severson claimed that he could hear the roar get louder and louder and that the entire building began to shake. His classroom only had minor damage, but the room right next to his had been completely destroyed. The roof had caved in. There were 11 other individuals inside the school at the time who were all able to seek shelter and make it out alive. Significant damage was done to the school, including the destruction of the football field, the auditorium's roof, and the school bus barn that housed 30 to 40 buses. Like toys, these buses were flung all over the school property. On the roof, some of them were on the track. There were buses everywhere. It would take about a year to complete all the repairs, and during the 2004 to 2005 school year, the students had to study in a remote location. After heavily damaging the school with F2 strength, the tornado clipped the town of Bennett, Nebraska around 9 p.m. It was near the town of Bennett that the tornado caused F3 damage to a few rural homes. Finally, around 9:10 p.m., the record-breaking tornado dissipated in rural Otto County, Nebraska. Mike Johans, the governor of Nebraska at the time, took a tour of the region just after the event. According to him, the destruction was among the worst Nebraska has ever seen. The National Weather Service estimated peak wind speeds around 250 miles per hour, giving the tornado a high-end F4 rating. Of course, I did indeed search for remnants and destruction on Google Earth, and there are a few empty lots, a few slabs, a few random sidewalks going nowhere, but nothing too crazy. The town actually did a great job of rebuilding in the years after the event, and to this day, you really can't tell that a tornado went through it. All in all, the tornado lasted 1 hour and 40 minutes, traveling a massive 52 miles. Total damage estimated to be over $160 million in 2004 money, close to $210 million today.
It's interesting, it all happens so fast, and yet it caused that much damage. It's insane what a tornado can do.
Hallam F4 held the record for the largest tornado ever documented for almost 10 years until it was dethroned by the 2013 El Reno EF3. But Hallam is still quite unique when compared to the El Reno tornado. In fact, one could make an argument that technically the Hallam F4 should hold the title of largest tornado ever recorded, as it does hold the record for the largest condensation funnel ever recorded. What does that mean? Well, a condensation funnel is the funnel of the tornado. Tornadoes are full of different, debris, dirt, grass, structures. But when you witness a tornado, you also see its condensation funnel. That's that smooth looking cloud. A tornado is a region of low pressure, and depending on humidity and atmospheric conditions, the rotating air within the tornado can reach its condensation point. So the Hallam tornado has the largest confirmed condensation funnel ever. It was difficult to see because it was so dark out and so rain-wrapped, but there are a few photos out there if you look for them. When El Reno was at its peak size, it was really just a massive cluster of inner vortices, all rain-wrapped, so the exact shape was hard to define. That's why when you look at pictures of the El Reno tornado, it kind of just looks like a chaotic mess.
It just looks
That's
scary.
because it was a chaotic mess. Going back to that video from inside the El Reno tornado, you can just see the inner vortices all over the place. But El Reno was never fully organized as a full-on condensation funnel like the 2004 Hallam F4. Either way, both tornadoes are insane weather events, and they do both belong to the class of super tornado / mega wedge. So what are the factors behind these mysterious mega tornadoes? Is it the mesocyclonic wall cloud reaching the ground itself? Is it just intense winds surrounding the tornado kicking up dust? Perhaps it's just a cluster of tornadoes, kind of like the Greenfield, Iowa tornado, all within like this, dusty, I don't know. Please comment your theories below. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Really good video. Always learn something new from Sir Eagle Studios. Like I said, starting this channel, I knew nothing about tornadoes. So seeing about that and the way that there was the wall, and that's insane. And how you get tornadoes that big, 2.5 miles wide. That's just past what I thought you would actually get. But thank you so much for checking out the video with me. I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. It massively helps out the channel. We're growing. But for now, I'll catch you on the next reaction.